Hello everyone, I'm Dave Robbins with Endtime Ministries, and this is your Prophecy in the News. I'm constantly having emails sent to me with people with several questions. I get hundreds of questions in here. So I wanted to answer periodically in these Prophecy in the News segments some of your questions to help you in your research. And again, if you have a question you would like answered on a future segment of Prophecy in the News, email me at drobbins@endtime.com. I'll see if I can't answer some of those for you. The first question we have today is, do you feel that the Real ID Act is the mark of the beast? Well, actually, no, not at this point. The Real ID Act, which was signed by George Bush in 2005, will in essence turn our driver's license into national ID cards. It's a federally mandated bill, and it was actually supposed to be implemented, the final implementation date, January 15th of this month. But they have just now postponed it because only 13 states have complied, and so they postponed it to 2015. But at this point, no, it's not the mark of the beast. Of course, the mark of the beast, Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 through 18, states that everyone will be given a number, and without that number, you won't be able to buy or sell. So we see this headed in that direction, but as of right now, no. You can get a Real ID driver's license and not take the mark of the beast, because at this time it's not. But when they start using that number to economically sanction you, then that's when all Christians will have to opt out at that point. The second question, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 says that there must be a falling away before the second coming of Jesus Christ. What does this mean? Well, the term falling away in the original Greek means apostasia, which according to Thayer's lexicon is defecting from true religion. So 100 years or a few hundred years after the original church was established in the book of Acts, because of the lack of Bibles and the lack of the knowledge of Word of God, they fell away from the original true religion into what we refer to as the Dark Ages. And so, but since we've now come through that, and now we have Bibles readily available, we're coming back into the full truth, and we have been for the past several hundred years. So when what Paul is talking about in 2 Thessalonians is that there's going to come a falling away, and what he's referring to is the Dark Ages during that time. It's not the gathering of the church or something like that. It's actually the Dark Ages is what he's referring to. The third question, Palestine was recently recognized as a state in November by the United Nations. Was this the signing of the peace treaty in Daniel 9:27? Actually, no, it wasn't. There's two ways that you can recognize that peace treaty, which will launch us into the final 7 years before the Battle of Armageddon. The first thing it will be that it will allow for the complete recognition of Israel as a state in the Middle East. It will give them final borders and say, okay, Israel, this is your plot of land. Now nobody can mess with it. And the second thing it will do is it will place the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement, an international sharing arrangement, allowing for the rebuilding of the third temple. So two ways you can recognize the peace treaty. Israel gets their final borders, recognizing them as an official state in the Middle East, and it places the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement, allowing for the rebuilding of the third temple. The fourth question, if Jesus was buried the night before the Sabbath, which we know the Sabbath was Saturday, and rose on the first day of the week, which is Sunday, how can he have been in the earth 3 days and 3 nights, according to Matthew chapter 12, verse 40? Is the Bible contradicting itself? Well, of course we know that the Bible never contradicts itself one time. I get people that call in all the time trying to disprove the Bible, saying, well, it contradicts itself, it was written by men, this, that, and the other. Well, we know and we can prove the Bible never contradicts itself one time, ever. You can trust the Bible. It's the absolute Word of God. And so, how do I answer this question? Well, it's really simple. During the annual Passover celebration, there's always 2 Sabbaths that week. And so the first Sabbath, which is the high Sabbath, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which starts on Wednesday evening. The second Sabbath is the regular Sabbath on Saturday. So Jesus was crucified before the first Sabbath, which was a high Sabbath, and that began on Wednesday evening. So he was crucified, buried, put in the ground on Wednesday evening, and then he rose sometime Saturday evening, thus fulfilling the prophecy of Matthew 12:40. So the Bible doesn't contradict itself one time ever. We know that for sure, and we can prove that conclusively. So these are just a few questions that I've had written in. I wanted to answer for you today. And again, if you have any future questions that you would like answered on future segments of Prophecy in the News, email me, drobbins@endtime.com, and we'll see if we can't help you out with your research. So I want to thank you for watching. I'm Dave Robbins with Endtime Ministries, and this is Prophecy in the News.